It's time for another year of football. What is up, everyone? This is Ellibod here. Welcome to the Ellibod Sports Network, and it is time for me to throw my hat into football predictions. So, like last season, I'm going to do the Championship and the Premiership in English football. Not going to go any further than that. I won't do League 1 and League 2. I'm just going to stick to Championship and the Premier League. And we're using the same system. If I get my predictions spot on, 5 points. If I'm 1 place out, 3 points. If I'm 2 places out, 1 point. Anything further, it is an incorrect prediction. So we're going to start with the Championship. Well, this is actually, I think, going to be a pretty interesting season for the Championship. And it is the hardest league to predict. With that in mind, let's go. So starting off, 24th. What the fuck is going on at Derby County? Pretty much, from what I've read, anything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. Including manager Wayne Rooney injuring one of his own players in training. Just how? Not only that, but there were stories about Wayne Rooney having to call the police for something, and I do not see any light at the end of the tunnel for Derby County as long as Wayne Rooney remains the manager there. So, yeah, it's relegation for Derby County. Even if you take my 2-place caveat into account, you're getting relegated. This is a historic club with a glowing history, and Wayne Rooney is about to shove it all down the toilet. If you sack him, then maybe you'll survive, but as long as Wayne Rooney remains your head coach, it's relegation. That's simple. 23rd. I just don't see this club doing anything interesting. They've come up from League 1. They are going to go straight back down. It is Peterborough. Nothing about them right now screams that they're going to stay up in the Championship. Nothing about them right now screams that they're looking to stay in the Championship. They've came up. They're going to go straight back down. Their squad does not reach the caliber of Championship level. So, yeah. I mean, you may survive by the skin of your teeth, but I don't think it will happen. So, Peterborough in 23rd. 22nd. You really haven't got any better since getting relegated from the Premier League all those seasons ago, and it's just getting worse for Huddersfield. Again, another club that does not have anything about them that says we want to be a big club. They almost look like they are preparing to go down. And for a former Premier League club to be heading down to League 1, that's a pretty bad place to be. I mean, just look at Leeds. After all the years being in the top flight and how they descended down. Of course, they rose back up from the ashes. You're not. Huddersfield are not going to rise up from this. It'll be the slow descent into obscurity for Huddersfield. So next in 21st, just staying up by the skin of their teeth, is Blackpool. Blackpool looked pretty good in League One, and now they're back up in the Championship. They're starting to build up a little bit, and there's always one underdog story in the Championship of a club that you think should go down that won't, and I reckon Blackpool will be that. I reckon they will survive, just. If not by a point, then it will be goal difference between them and Huddersfield. But I think Blackpool will finish ahead of Huddersfield. Again, it's going to be tight. 20th. I predicted that they would stay up last season, and they did. I got them spot on, if I remember correctly. But I think it is going to start to slip a bit. But they're still going to stay up. Coventry. They showcased themselves last season. Again, they've got to build a foundation in the Championship. I mentioned this about Coventry in my last prediction. They've got to build a foundation in the Championship and then go to challenge for the Prem. Again, I think Coventry may slip a bit, but again, they will stay up. They will stay in the Championship and start to build themselves in the Championship. So Coventry in 20th. 19th. I underestimated this club last time. I predicted them for last and they ended up mid-table, which still shocks me even when I'm saying it out loud. But things are going to start, they're going to start to descend at Luton Town. You're going to start to slip back down into that lower part of the Championship where you're battling for survival. But yeah, I still think you'll stay up. But I think, yeah, I said the feel-good factor would wear out last season. It didn't. If anything, it improved. It's going to wear out this season. But again, you'll stay up. Not really much else to say on Luton in that regard. They haven't really made any moves in the transfer window, as far as I'm aware, that really scream big transfers. But again, I think Luton at the moment are just trying to stick with what they've got and try to build on it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, but you know, you can't really stay on that forever. You need to try and eventually challenge, because otherwise you're going to end up like, well, Derby County are. You're just going to end up plummeting. So Luton Town in 19th. Staying up, but a descent down the ranks. So 18th. You seem happy to allow your local rivals to dominate your city. And even when the city is named after you, you seem content to allow Aston Villa to dominate you. Where's the fight, Birmingham? Where's that passion and desire from those years you were in the Premier League? Because it's dead. It's dead now. And you almost seem happy with it. Again, you're not doing anything but screams out that you want to try and aim for the Premier League. You don't seem willing to bring in the players that you need. It's pathetic. And let me make this clear. I'm not an Aston Villa fan. I'm a Newcastle fan. I actually don't like Aston Villa, given the way that Aston Villa fans behave towards Newcastle. Their hatred towards us for some apparent reason, which we then bottled up and took it out on them when we came back to the Premier League. But you must hate it. Surely, you must hate the fact that Aston Villa are looking to make one of the biggest transfers in English football history, selling a player for 100 million. That must eat away at you. So go on, do something about it, or 18th is where you're going to end up. But I don't see you doing anything. I just don't. And speaking of not doing anything, 17th, I have gone with Bristol City. If I remember correctly, Bristol City did okay in the season in the first half and then dropped off in the second half. So I think more of that drop-off is going to happen again for Bristol City. And again, they don't seem to be building on the squad that they have and trying to get the players that they need to restart making that challenge for top 10. And if you're not going to do that, eventually it's going to slip and you're going to plummet. And I'm saying that about a lot of clubs in this part, but that's because it's what's going to happen. I mean, it's one of the things that last season, and I'll cover this club in a moment, you'll probably know who it is, but last season when I thought this club were going to be right down there near the bottom, and they ended up fighting and getting into the playoffs. That's because they actually built on the squad and developed what they had. And I don't see Bristol City doing that. So 17th, certainly not a bad season, but you should be doing a lot better. A lot better. So from one city to another, there's always one promoted team that outshines expectation. Coventry last season, and this season 16th. Why not Hull City? I think there's going to be fight and desire at Hull to avoid the humiliation of a couple of seasons ago in the Championship. You're going to want to fight for this. You're going to want to fight to stay in the Championship. And I reckon you will, and you will. And you'll outshine a lot of expectations of you. I reckon you're going to beat... I reckon that you'll beat some of the teams that I'm ranking above you. But you're also going to... You're going to lose a couple of games to the teams I'm ranking below you. I think you might end up having a bit of a shaky patch with teams like Luton or Huddersfield or Coventry. But I reckon Hull will pick up in areas where no one is expecting them to pick up. They'll score wins against teams they really shouldn't be scoring wins against, but they will also lose to teams that they really shouldn't be losing to. But I think Hull will stay up a comfortable 16th. 15th. I thought that momentum would be with this team last season. It wasn't. And I think it's going to be a bit of a descent for Millwall. Again, I thought you lot would scrape into the playoffs last season, and, well, you didn't. You finished in 11th. And I think, again, you're gonna fall a bit again. Still mid-table, but nothing to really smile about. And, you know, I've looked at Millwall's squad, and it's not a bad squad. It's certainly not great, but it's certainly not bad either. And I do have a respect for Millwall and the Millwall fans. I mean, yeah, obviously I'm going to say they do go too far on some occasions, but, you know, you wouldn't go that far if you weren't that passionate. And, you know, you can't fault Millwall for passion. But, again, it's building on the squad and working on the areas that you need to work on. I think on the attack you're doing pretty good. I think defensive you need some You need to be more solid at the back. You've got an interesting League Cup tie against Portsmouth, which will be... that should be a lot of fun. And I think that game is actually going to determine... if you end up losing to Portsmouth, then you're probably going to do worse than I'm predicting. But I'm thinking, you know, lower mid-table for Millwall. And another team that... this is a team that should be doing better, but it's not going to. Strangled by owners that don't care. And no matter what efforts they put in to try and fix it, it's just not going to work. And that is Blackburn. Again, I keep saying this. I said this about Blackburn last season. This is a club that should be in the Premier League. And it's not. It is nowhere near it. And, you know, as long as your owners stay there, it's never going to happen, Blackburn. And, you know, I'm saying this as a Newcastle fan. I know what it's like to be strangled by an owner that doesn't give a fuck about your club. But you still fight on. That you're not going to go up. You're not going to go down. Mid-table. And that's something, I guess. So Blackburn in 14th. 13th. This was a club I really overestimated last season. Not going to make that same mistake again. QPR. Queen's Park Rangers are a weird beast. You can't really predict what they're going to do, and a lot of the times they end up shooting themselves in the foot, like they did last season when they made a purchase of a player from the Scottish Premier League, and suddenly everyone was tipping them for promotion, and then it just didn't happen. So, and this time round, it looks like QPR aren't really doing anything in terms of like trying to get in good players. So, again, QPR, mid-table. Can't really see them doing anything else. Got this really bad itch in my eye at the moment. Right, so we finally move into the top half, and we start with last season's surprise package. The club I was talking about a couple of moments ago when I didn't name them, I named them now. It is Barnsley. And notice I can't say Barnsley without putting a little northern accent on it. Barnsley. This club shocked everyone last season by making it to the playoffs. So I reckon they will aim for it again, but they will be nowhere near this time. I think they will start to drift back down, but nowhere near relegation. I think Barnsley know now what it takes to try and get up into the top echelons of the Championship. I reckon they will try and do the same again. They will falter in some places, and that's why I'm putting them in 12th. But that will still be a pretty good season for Barnsley. So 11th, the roughhouse, conservative, long balls from the back originators. I don't know if they were the originators of it, but I'm going to call them it. Stoke. A club that is just happily stable in the Championship. They're looking to keep themselves pretty stable there. They may chase for the Premier League in a couple of seasons, but at the moment they're just looking to keep a solid base. And yeah, they will do just that. 11th for Stoke City. So we're in the top 10 now, and following their bad showing in the Premier League last season, I think this club will look to recover and just try and regain some stability. And that is Sheffield United. Last season in the Prem was not good. You almost ended up being the Derby County of the Premier League. And in the first half of the season you picked it up in the second, but not enough to stay up. So I reckon you'll try and ride some of that momentum in the second half of the season into the Championship. And I reckon you'll do alright. 10th place. You won't come back up to the Prem for a while now, though. You know, it's kind of weird. I remember Sheffield United when they were in League One, and Sheffield Wednesday were in the Championship. Sheffield Wednesday were actually the bigger club, and then Sheffield United have that sudden shoot up into the Premier League, and now Sheffield Wednesday have collapsed financially. So that is quite something. I think Sheffield United will have that as a main motivator. They don't want to end up like their neighbouring club. And I think that will motivate them into 10th. Another club that needs motivation, and I think this season they're going to try and go all guns blazing, and that is Nottingham Forest. I said it last season that we may need to resurrect the ghost of Brian Clough to bring some life back into this team. And you know, last season they were on the cusp of relegation until the late season they picked it up. They will try and ride that, similar to Sheffield United, but again, they're going to fall short of making the playoffs. They're going to lose games that they really shouldn't be losing. And that is why I'm going to go with Nottingham Forest for 9th place. So next in 8th, another club that kind of surprised me. It's kind of a difficult club to pin down. You think they're going to do badly and they do well. You think they're going to do well and they do badly. I think this season they'll do pretty good. Preston North End. There is part of me that was considering having Preston in the playoffs. But again, it's that doubt about Preston North End's form. They are so tricky to predict, and it's because they don't seem to have any solid strategy. They keep on changing things. They keep on changing strategy. They keep on changing. I don't even think Preston North End know what their strongest team is yet. But they've got a pretty strong team, no matter what way you put it. And that's why I'm going with them for 8th. But that level of inconsistency is going to keep them out of the playoffs. Again, if you allow my 2-place caveat, you might scrape into the playoffs. But I don't see it happening. But 8th will be a good season. 8th will definitely be a good season for Preston North End. In 7th for my prediction for the Championship. This is interesting because I divot a little bit between this club and the club I ranked in 6th, and I'll come to them in a moment. But 7th, missing the playoffs by the skin of their teeth, Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough want Premier League status. You can see that in the way that they play. And they will be willing to fight, definitely. But again, there are too many inconsistencies that will keep this club from getting into the playoffs. But again, they are going to be willing to fight. And from what I've seen of their squad, from what I've seen of them in transfers, it's looking pretty good. Nothing huge, but nothing like, there's no like mediocre signings. The signings are ranging from pretty good to eh. And that, I think, is what Middlesbrough are going to try and develop on. They're going to look to try and get in some pretty good players and work with them. And, you know, it will work for Middlesbrough. I think not this season, but maybe next season you'll chase for the Premiership. Right, so we now come into the playoffs. And 6th place, again, I debated with myself between Middlesbrough and this club, but I reckon 6th place, West Brom. Coming down from the Premiership, excuse me. West Brom will show their status once again as the yo-yo club. And, part of me actually thinks they'll win the playoff. They'll come in 6th and then surprise everyone in the playoffs. Again, I'm not going to put anything to that. I'm not going to risk a tattoo bet because I actually do have a brain. Admittedly, not a big one, but I do still have one. But yeah, West Brom, 6th place. Just. In 5th place, I have gone with Cardiff. Again, this is a club that them along with Swansea want Welsh presence in the Premiership. And part of me thinks that Cardiff are hungrier for it, but Swansea have a better squad. And I'll cover Swansea in a moment. But, yeah, I think Cardiff will have a good season. They'll make the playoffs, but they will lose in the playoff semi-final to the team I have ranked 4th, which is Bournemouth. So close last season to coming back up, but faltering in the playoffs. I reckon Bournemouth will be in the playoffs again, and they will... Again, I think Bournemouth, they'll beat Cardiff in the playoffs, but then lose to West Brom. But Bournemouth will try and hold themselves in that top part of the Championship, constantly chasing for promotion, and that's how Bournemouth is going to rebuild. Because when they went down from the Premier League, honestly, I thought they would sort of linger in the mid-table of the Championship. But no, they look to be chasing for it, and good on them. So I reckon they will continue to try and chase for it. 3rd place, and a team that is gonna become pretty arrogant, in my honest view. And I reckon it will cost them automatic promotion. I reckon they will be in 2nd throughout most of the season, and then fall short at the final day and end up in the playoffs. That club is Fulham. It is something about this club that I just... Every time I see Fulham play, they are... it's almost yo-yo club status. If not almost, then actually. And... yeah, I've said it before, I can't stand yo-yo clubs. And that's what Fulham are going to be. So they will hold 2nd for most of the season and then drop it off in the last few games. End up in the playoffs, and they will lose to West Brom. So now we have my top 2. Only 2 teams left. Mentioned one of them, I briefly mentioned one of them. I had the conversation about them earlier when I was talking about Cardiff. 2nd place will be Swansea. Swansea will be hungry for it, and they will go for it. And I've looked at Swansea's squad this season. It looks to be a good squad. And yeah, I watched some of the Swansea games last season, and I think they will keep the fight on with Fulham for second, and then like I said, Fulham will screw up and Swansea will get into second. But in all those other games that Swansea will play, I reckon they will have a massive edge over all the other teams in the Championship, all except one. The team I am predicting for first place, the team I'm predicting to win the Championship. Why? Why not? They show you at the beginning of last season that they can get momentum. It will be a matter of keeping it. And I think this season they will keep it. First place, Reading. I reckon the Royals will be coming back up to the Premier League from the Championship. And it's going to be an interesting ride. But I think the Royals have got one of the strongest squads in the Championship. And they will. There's part of me thinking, but they'll be runaway champions. But I definitely think they'll have this one. They'll be eager for the fight. So there you go. I have thrown myself into a Championship prediction. Remember, I use a point system. If any of these predictions, if I get them spot on, 5 points. If it's one place out, 3 points. 2 places out, 1 point. Any further, it will be an incorrect prediction. Let's see if I can score more than I did last year.